Welcome to multiple choice question 10 of the 2008 Mathematical Methods Exam 2. In this video we will be looking at the solution for this question. A reminder that this video is in no way endorsed by VCAA. And now before we move on, I just want to point out that the use of a CAS calculator is a very efficient way of answering this problem. So for question 10, the range of the function f with a restricted domain of pi on 8 to pi on 3, where the pi on 8 is included because of the square bracket and pi on 3 is excluded because of the round bracket, where f of x has the rule 2 sine of 2x, the range is one of the following options. So because we can recognize that this is a non-linear graph, so that means that there's likely to be turning points and other things involved, we actually want to start with a sketch of this, and to do that we're going to use a CAS calculator. On the CAS calculator, go into the main menu. Next we want to type in the rule that we're given. So for the function f of x it was 2 and then it was sine of 2x, and then just check that your calculator's in radians. And now I'm going to start by defining this function. So it's not essential to define it, but I think it's going to make it easy to work with in a moment's time. So we've got f of x. And then to work out what the range is, I'm actually going to start with a graph of it. So I'm going to take f of x and I'm going to sketch it over a restriction. So under math 3, I'm going to use this straight up and down line to tell the calculator that we go from pi on 8 and x is less than or equal to that, but less than, and then the second fraction is pi on 3. And then clicking on the graph button, we can drag this down and it will sketch it just over the domain that we want. So I'm going to press the plus button to just zoom in a little bit, and we can see that our range goes from the endpoint of pi on 8 to the maximum, not the other endpoint. So if I go analysis gsolve max, we can find that point, and the x value is a decimal, but the y value is exact as being 2. So then the only other thing we really need to find is the other endpoint where it's at its minimum, and that's down there at the pi on 8 value. So if I just go back to the main menu, I can drag down f of x and replace x with pi on 8, and that gave us root 2. So that's the minimum value there, up to the maximum value of 2 that we can see on our graph. So having seen what the graph will look like from the CAS calculator, I'm actually just going to sketch it out on a set of axes so that we can annotate it. So from the calculator, the graph shape looks something like this. And then we had knowledge about the endpoints. So this endpoint here, we actually got the calculator to find the exact value of that. So that was when x was pi on 8, the y value was root 2. And that is a colored in dot because we have a square bracket around the pi on 8 in the domain. Now I didn't find this point on the calculator, but if you had have calculated f of pi on 3, you'd find that that point would be pi on 3 comma root 3. And then this point up here, we knew the y value was 2 off the calculator, and we could have worked out that its x value is pi on 4 comma 2. So to work out the range of the graph, we're just going to look for the smallest y value, which is root 2, up until the largest value of y, which is 2. And both of those points are included. So that means that the correct answer goes from root 2 to 2 with square brackets for both. So C is the correct answer here. So from the examiner's report, we can see that this question was particularly challenging for students, with only 45% of students getting the correct answer. 34% of students selected E, and those students assumed that the maximum value for y occurred close to the endpoint at pi on 3, root 3. And that meant that they gave the range as root 2 with a square bracket to root 3 with a round bracket, which was option E. And the tip here is that sketching a graph is an easy way to avoid making incorrect assumptions about the range. So just to show that graph again, here's one computer generated. We can see that because there's a maximum turning point between the two endpoints, it's not enough just to find the y values of those endpoints. We've got to make sure that you find the absolute maximum value. In this case, that was 2, as well as the minimum value over that domain, which was root 2. So again, sketching a graph is a great way of approaching questions like this. And if you've got a calculator, it's a reasonably easy thing to do.